everybody. Welcome. It's the Artist Hangout. I'm Paula Swazi, your host, and I'm really excited today because I get to speak with my dear friend, Susan Graham, who comes to us live from New Mexico. And Susan's one of the best mezzo-sopranos in the world, and she is here with us. And I'm really excited. Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
So we have campers from all over the world. There's
so
like
exciting.
30-something countries involved, and we've got some great questions today, and I'm really excited to have this opportunity. I'm back in New York City, back in our apartment. I've got the air conditioning cranked.
Yeah, I bet. Well, here in New Mexico, this is what's called our monsoon season. So even though we're in the desert, in July and August, it gets a little rainy and it cools everything down and it's really beautiful.
Oh, that's a nice place to be. So we're getting some hellos from people all over the world.
Hello.
Yay.
Susan is here. Yes, she is. Live in person from Buenos Aires. I love Buenos Aires. One of my favorite cities in the whole world.
So, Susan, I just gave you a quick warning. You get to do your 90-second life story. That's what we always start with. So I always say, make sure you tell us where you were born. Try not to leave anything out. You got 90 seconds, and then we'll talk.
Okay. Are you ready?
I am ready. Ready?
Yep.
Go.
Well, I was born right here in New Mexico in a town called Roswell. Any of y'all who don't know what Roswell is famous for, Google it. It's about UFOs and aliens and things. Okay, so I grew up in Roswell, moved to Texas in the middle of 8th grade year, which, as you can imagine, is a terrible time to have to move. But music saved my life because I was a pianist and I got into the choir. And then I was the lead in the high school musical, Maria in The Sound of Music. And that made me know that I didn't want to be a pianist anymore, but I wanted to be a singer. And then I went to Texas Tech University and I got 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's in opera. And it was really fun. And then I moved to New York City and I got another degree in music because it was a reason for me to be in New York City. And then I got an agent and I did summer programs. And then I won the Met competition. And then I started getting to sing at the Met a lot. And then I started singing all over the world. And then 3 years ago, I got married.
Well done.
4 years ago. Am I under 90 seconds?
Oh my gosh, that was only a minute. That was amazing. Well done.
I've been really lucky in my life to sing with amazing people in amazing places. And I just feel like the luckiest girl in the world because I grew up knowing nothing about opera. Nothing.
That is amazing. First of all, great life story. Well done. I like how you were really focused. See, somebody loves your glasses. See?
Hey, thank you.
Thanks. I did get my hair cut. I got it cut yesterday outside. I'm afraid to go to a salon. So we all masked up and our stylist came to us, which was really great.
Well, my salon is in New York, so I'm out of luck.
Yeah. So listen, we have a lot of great questions, and I would love to play our first video question because that'll get the ball rolling in terms of our conversation. So Dan, we are ready.
Hi, my name is Kaylin and I live in London. I have 2 questions for Susan today. Firstly, how important do you think costumes are in helping you get into a role? And secondly, what is your favorite trouser role costume and what is your favorite non-trouser role costume? Thank you, and I love your singing so much.
Thank you so much. Those are really good questions.
So I want to clarify what a trouser role is, just in case there's anybody here who doesn't know what that means. Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, a trouser role is so called because it's a woman wearing trousers because she's playing the part of a boy, which I have done a lot in my career. It's an operatic tradition. And because I'm very tall, I'm nearly 6 feet tall. And for you Europeans, that's about 180 centimeters. I grew up as sort of athletic and sort of I love doing these trouser rolls because they mean that I get to sword fight a lot. And I get to jump up and down off the furniture, and I get to run around and act like a kid, which is really, really fun. Most of y'all are kids, so you know how much fun it is. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of those kinds of parts. It's also because my voice type is a mezzo, and most mezzos are the ones who play these trouser roles, because we're supposed to be portraying a young man or a young boy, maybe whose voice hasn't changed yet, or who's so mischievous that it wouldn't be right to have like a real grown man playing that part, because it's meant to be like an adolescent young kid. So they always get a woman because her voice is still high.
Yeah.
And I've
Great.
done a lot of those parts, and I love them.
They're super fun. They're always really fun.
So
So
plus
talking about
when you're playing a boy, your shoes are much more comfortable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and this is a great question, because she covers, first of all, how important to you are costumes to help you get into character? How does that?
I will tell you, that is such a great question. When I'm rehearsing, and it just, in my normal street clothes, like, this or whatever, I try to sort of capture maybe the essence of what the character might be like. Like if I was playing a boy, I wouldn't probably show up in a hot pink sparkly top, just because, it might help me just sort of get into character. But the defining moment is when I get the shoes. I say a lot about shoes here, but shoes determine how you walk, how your body is, how
your hips are,
how your hips are. And a big important thing when you're playing a boy, of course, is how you move your body, because males and females move differently because we're put together slightly differently. So the idea with the sort of flat shoes or boots or something like that, they're a little bit heavier and they're flat soled, so it's easier to sort of keep my female hips in a masculine line, if you will. That's sort of important. So the shoes are really important. Also, when you're in a beautiful costume, whoever you're playing, it just lifts you up. It makes you feel like you're kind of special, and that the event is very special. You know how when you get dressed up to go to a fancy event or something and you feel like you look good, it gives you a little bit more confidence. And so you can go out on the stage and sort of even do better than you thought you could in the rehearsal room. Everything is, the stakes are a little higher once you get into costume.
And we have a couple of great pictures of you in costume from The Merry Widow. Dan, if you have those handy, pop a couple of those up, because these costumes, non-trouser
that role, is one of the best.
Beautiful.
Except I have to tell you, you can't see my feet, but I was wearing 3-inch red lace-up boots.
Oh.
And in that scene, I had to walk around the stage very slowly, like I was, you can sort of see
and you had
there.
To be lifted up, yeah.
But I had to walk around the stage very slowly and elegantly. Oh, you can see the shoes on the dancers. I had on exactly those same boots.
Yeah.
And as I realized, if you're wearing shoes that aren't that comfortable, or you have problematic feet, which I sort of do, both of those things were true in that moment, it's hard to walk slowly and painfully, but gracefully. That was, in fact, it was that show and those shoes that I discovered, the mechanics of the bones in your feet are very, very much in demand when you're on stage, because you have to be in control of every little muscle in order to walk slowly and elegantly. That was a good scene. That was Paul Groves. Paul Groves.
Look at you. So beautiful.
Those were awesome costumes. Those were beautiful, beautiful costumes. Designed by, what was that guy's name? A famous Broadway designer, because he worked with Susan Stroman.
Right. It's out of my head.
It's on the tip of my tongue, and I can see
William Ivy Long. Thank you, Dan. William
Ivy Long. Yes. The most beautiful costumes. But Caitlin, is that who asked my last question?
Yes, Kaylin
wanted to know the best trouser role costume I've ever worn. And without a doubt, the second act costume in Der Rosenkavalier. The white one with all of the rhinestones all over it. And I walked out on stage in this white, sparkly costume, carrying a silver rose. and I felt like a disco ball. Most of y'all are too young to know what a disco ball is, but it's a shiny, glittery thing that hangs from the ceiling, and you shine a light on it, and it makes glitter, glitter, glitter go all over the room. That's what I felt like.
That's great. And that's such a great role. Some of you guys at some point when you can.
Oh, it's on the Med HD this week.
It's on the Med HD this week.
Saturday.
And Rose and Cavalier. Now this is, I think, is it the new, no, it's the old production.
It's me.
It's you. And it's the Otto Schenk, right?
Yes.
And it's
no, it was Nat Merrill.
Nat Merrill, sorry, of course. And it's such a great,
it's the beautiful, iconic, traditional production that doesn't exist anymore. But it is beautiful.
And it's a great opera, like, because Susan gets to play a boy who, of course, eventually dresses up like a girl. And then, it's
very funny.
Great, funny thing.
And it's with Renee Fleming.
Yeah, that's right. It's the Marshallin.
It's also very fun. And we're really, really good friends. So it was like doing a fun thing with your best friend.
That's fantastic.
Ellie knows what a disco ball is. Go, Ellie.
All right. Now, I think we have definitely gotten some things submitted. Is it joke o'clock? I think we're ready for a joke. Dan, here we go. All right. It's joke o'clock. I can't wait to see what we get this week. All right. Let's get our first. Claire from Fort Dodge, Iowa. How does a gingerbread man make his bed? A cookie sheet?
Gingerly.
With a cookie sheet. Oh, I was right.
That's very good, Paula.
Oh, well, that's like the first time I've ever even guessed it.
That's really good.
Thank you, Claire. That was very cute. Jokes. Okay, now I know we've got a question from Karit from Estonia, and I'd love to play that one now, if you've got.
Hello, my name is Karit. I'm from Estonia, and my question for Susan is, who inspired you the most when you were young?
Thanks, Karit. I wanted to ask this question, Susan, because you talked about how you grew up without opera in your life, and I did too. I had never heard an opera till I was in college. And I'm curious, like, who inspired you? And Karit wants to know who inspired you the most when you were young. So this would be sort of pre-opera time for you.
Well, because I didn't have any exposure to opera, I didn't know anything. I was studying music, and I was determined to be a pianist. And, but I grew up in a place and in a sort of environment where classical music personalities were not part of my environment. Mm-hmm. But I will say that once I made the decision to study singing and I was in college, that's really when I started learning who people were and started really listening to recordings. I loved very early on, I listened to, well, okay, I'll backtrack even before classical. My greatest inspirations musically were Simon and Garfunkel when I was little, because my older brother and sister listened to those records. Simon and Garfunkel was a very popular pop duo in the 60s and 70s.
I bet some of these kids know who they are.
I bet they know. And the Beatles, of course.
Yes, that was mine too.
Queen. I loved Freddie Mercury's voice. I mean, that was practically an operatic voice.
Totally.
And Karen Carpenter, the Carpenters. I just loved the sort of musical sensibilities of all those people.
And I was Bruce Springsteen. That was because I grew up in New Jersey, and my sisters introduced me to him when I was way too young to understand it at all. And that was because I didn't really listen to classical music either until I started working in it.
He was too yelly for me.
I loved his stories though.
I know you could relate to them. See, that was in a part. I was in the Southwest. I was in New Mexico in Texas, which is a whole world away from all that. But once I got into college and started really studying, classical singing, I remember The Art of the Prima Donna was a recording that Joan Sutherland made. And I remember trying to imitate her, even though my voice type was completely different. But I just thought the sounds that she made were so amazing, and the virtuosity was so amazing. So I remember listening to her and trying to emulate her. Once I got serious about my voice type, being a mezzo-soprano, I really gravitated toward the recordings of Christa Ludwig, who's a famous German
Amazing.
mezzo-soprano. She's in her 90s now, and she's still a friend. I studied with her. I mean, she taught me the role of Octavian.
Oh, amazing.
She was the definitive Octavian.
Totally. That's
like the last century.
What an amazing person to learn it from.
I know.
And that brings up our next question, which is from Joe from Germany, which we'll get that and we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Joe. I am from Hanau, Germany. And my question to Susan is, what was your, let's call it a light bulb moment? As in the moment that made you realize, wow, I really want to be a singer.
I didn't understand all of her.
So she wants to know your light bulb moment, like when you decided you wanted to be a singer, which I thought would be really helpful for us to hear about that. And then how you knew how it became that you were going to be a mezzo. Those are sort of interesting.
Those are good questions. Okay, I had two light bulb moments. One was positive and one was negative.
I'll
say the negative one first. As I mentioned, I had spent since I was 7 years old learning to play the piano. And I was pretty good. I mean, I did all competitions, and I used to win awards, and I played Beethoven sonatas, and I played Mozart concertos and Chopin and Debussy. And, I was pretty serious about it. And I accompanied choirs all through middle school and high school. And so, I was singing and playing sort of at the same time, but really formal training more in piano. And so the negative light bulb moment was when I was a senior in high school, and I was playing my senior recital, and it was a Mozart concerto, and my piano teacher was playing the orchestra part on her piano, and I was on my piano playing the solo part. And at a certain point, I just completely blanked out. I got lost. I got distracted. I got lost. And so you were supposed to be hearing and all you heard was the orchestra part going chunk 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 chunk. And I was mortified. And I finally came back in at the cadenza, and we ended it. And at that, I think sometime during that, I thought, I'm done with piano.
Wow.
I'm done with piano, because it was always so scary for me to memorize piano pieces. That same year, I sang Maria in The Sound of Music in my high school musical. And the joy and freedom and fun that I had on stage as a character in a musical made me think that this my place is in front of the piano, not behind it.
Nice.
And standing in front of it and singing. And I even enjoyed singing competitions so much more than I enjoyed piano competitions, because it gives you a chance to have eye contact, and you can express, and you've got words, even if they're sometimes in different languages. That was also a thrill. To be 16 years old and standing up there and singing in French felt very exotic and glamorous in Midland, Texas.
Sure. And I think I just want to say for everybody listening, so important. You saw Susan's face talk about like the joy, and when she realized that in her soul and pursued that, even though you had spent arguably, a long period of time, 10 years of your short life at that point, doing something really different. And I think, remember that and check in, and how are you feeling about what you're doing, and try to follow that, because it does lead you to places that you can't really predict. You don't know, right?
Well, do you know why? And this is, I think, another part of Karit's question, or no,
or Joe. Yeah.
Joe's question. Yes. When I decided that I wanted to be a singer, then you got to decide what kind of singer you want to be. And as I said, I grew up in a very non-operatic environment. But when I started thinking about going to, school for singing, everybody in my hometown said, oh, you'll go to New York and be a star on Broadway.
Uh-huh.
Because that's all anybody knew.
Right.
We didn't have opera in our town. So Broadway was the thing that people knew. And I said, no, that's not for me. And they said, why not? And I said, because opera is impossible. Opera is languages and history and stagecraft and bigger than life. And nobody can do all that. So if I can do that and make a somewhat of a success or achieve something in opera, that'll really be something.
That's amazing. So speaking of the impossible, we have a beautiful clip of you singing Velia from Merry Widow. So let's have a little of that.
Okay.
Yay! And did you guys all see those shoes that Susan was talking about? And
I was
how
feeling the pain. That's
gracefully
the very moment I was talking about, when you have to walk slowly around and greet everyone.
you know,
I think did you see when I went back to see Tom Allen, and he was the guy in the purple that I greeted at the back of the stage while the chorus was singing? I think I recall saying at that moment, my feet are killing
me. And I just want to have our next question from Abby right now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Abby from Chicago, Illinois. My question for Ms. Graham is, I've heard singers at the Met don't use microphones. Is that true?
So she said, I've heard that singers at the Met don't use microphones. Is that true? And talk about the impossible. Yes, it is.
That is also
why you
true.
Whisper to Tom Allen, my feet are killing me right now, because you're not mice.
No. You can't hear the things that we actually say to each other on stage, which is probably good, although you'd probably find it pretty amusing.
Yeah.
No, we don't use microphones because we have all spent many years in training to be able to produce a rich Can you hear me? Am I on?
I think we got you back. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've spent many years in training being able to produce a rich resonant sound that doesn't require a microphone, because the opera is about the real, natural human voice. And if you've noticed, when you go to like Broadway shows or something where everybody is mic'd, or pop concerts or whatever, there can be 30 people on stage and you don't know who's singing, because it all sounds the same and it all just comes out of the speakers.
Right.
But when you're hearing people sing with their real voice and not amplified or anything like that, you can hear what they really sound like, because it's not sound engineered. And you can also follow the sound waves because they're coming from that person over there, or that person over there. There are microphones on stage, Una Poi asks, only when it's being recorded, but they are not amplifying microphones. They're just recording microphones.
That's right.
And that's the same thing too when we have when we're recording for HD for the videotaping things. Sometimes they'll put a little wig microphone right here that you might see, but it's not an amplifying microphone at all. It's only so that the people in the movie theaters can hear us.
Yeah. And I will say that for The Merry Widow, the dialogue was sometimes mic'd, but actually not when you did it. The first time we did it, they mic'd the dialogue, but then we tried it and nobody was happy with it. And I think we killed all the mics. But yeah, the Metropolitan Opera, it's a 3,800 seat house.
It's
the singers are not mic'd. They've trained very hard for this. And that is the reason why you don't see, like Susan would not do a performance Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So the physical feat requires rest. Think of it almost like American football players. Like they play one game a week for a reason, because the physicality.
It's very physically strenuous,
right,
to do that. And on the voice, even though we train so that there's as little pressure on the throat as possible, because it all comes from breathing. Down here is where the motor is. That's where the engine is. And to be able to efficiently produce sound, we don't want to be yelling, and we don't want to do it from our throat. That's why we spend so many years in training to protect this mechanism, which is very delicate. The vocal cords are very delicate. Yeah. But if it's fully supported with body strength and support, and the air is flowing properly through the vocal cords, then it certainly doesn't hurt. People have said to me, "You sang so loud tonight. Does that hurt?" Oh, no. If it hurts, I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And this is perfect because I want to get Olivia from Chicago. She's got a question for you, and this is a good time for that.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Olivia from Chicago, and I'm asking Miss Graham, what is the best advice that you've ever gotten from a teacher?
So she's asking, what's the best advice you've ever gotten from a teacher? And I think that's always so important for young people to hear as you're talking about how to learn proper technique, and so
there's so much advice that has, one of the things I had the voice teacher that I still have, I've studied with the same voice teacher for over 30 years.
Wow.
And I love her. She's in New York. We talk on the phone all the time. And she's seen me through all the stages of my career over 30 years. And early on, she had a little plaque up on her wall that had like 50 rules to be a success. And the only one I remember is surround yourself with the best people. And I feel like I've always done that. I've always had managers who were the best managers, and I've had teachers who were the best teachers, and coaches who were the best coaches, because nobody can do this by themselves. Right. No man is an island. It takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of support. It takes a lot of, there are elements of this career that you can't even imagine. Think of what it takes to get a show on the stage. It's got crew people, lighting people, sound people, people who move the sets, people who make the costumes and do the wigs and put your makeup on you. And then there's all the stage people, the people who help you learn the staging, and all the people in the pit, and the people, and the people who are the librarians who put the music on the stands for the orchestra to play. There's a whole hundreds of people. Yeah. So in as much as I can control the people around me in my personal sphere, like the person I work on the music with, like my voice teacher, like my managers, like a publicist, I need to find the people who care about me and who will care about me so that they can help me be at my best all the time. And so that was a really important thing. The thing that when I teach now, that I always tell my students, which is something that I live by, is mean what you say and say what you mean.
Mm.
Whether you're singing or whether you're speaking or whether you're talking to the person who's serving you food or whether you're talking to the mailman, always be authentic and find what it is that's real and transmit that. And if you're singing something or playing the piano or playing the violin or any instrument, always figure out what you want to say and then figure out a way to say that authentically and without fakeness.
That's such great advice. And I want to ask you a little bit about teaching, because we haven't really spoken about that on, I don't
know,
think,
it's
any of
it's my
these.
new hat that I
Oh.
wear.
Yeah. So tell me, did you always want to be a teacher, or did you always think, okay, at some point I will teach what I know, or was that something that
I did not. I was scared of it. I was scared of teaching, and I thought, you know, what do I have to say? I always did master classes because, you can when I was doing a recital at a university or whatever, they would ask me to do a master class for the young singers in their vocal department in the school. And I would always say, okay. And I was always afraid, terrified I would not be able to think of anything to say to some young baritone who brings the Count's aria to me, from Marriage of Figaro or something.
Right.
And I realized that at a certain point, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've learned so much in doing this just on a daily basis. And my exposure to, especially early on when I was young and I was singing with amazing big stars, and I would just sit in rehearsal and watch them work and watch their process. And I learned a lot from that. And through doing that, I sort of developed my own process. And then that became the vehicle through which I now teach, because in addition to doing master classes and sort of the odd, encounter with young singers from now and then, 3 years ago, I was invited to become a staff member at the Los Angeles Opera, and I teach the young artists there in the young artist program, and I'm on staff, and it's a real job. It's a real teaching position. And they're very nice to sort of build it in around my performing schedule, which is, until COVID was still quite full.
Busy, yeah.
And quite busy. And so when I'm not on the road, I live in LA. So I go down there and teach, 3 or 4 hours a day, which has been a huge eye opener to me.
Yeah.
And I've learned that because of the experience that I have, and because I've always had really high standards for myself, which I have rarely met. But you're always striving. You're always trying to be better. You're always trying to be better. Yeah. And so that's what I bring to my students. I bring really high standards because I listen to them and I think, I know they can do that better. I know that thinking about something differently, they can unlock something and they can lift something up. And I want them to be world class.
Yeah.
And I know what world class is.
Yeah.
So I try to lift them up.
That's great.
It's very, very gratifying.
Do singing teachers have teachers? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right? You still have your teacher that you work with.
I sure do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people think that when they start having a career, they don't need a teacher anymore because they've accomplished it. They've gotten there. So they must be okay.
Yeah.
I don't agree, because the voice lives in a human body. It's not something we carry around in a case. And it's the same from day to day. It's not a piano, any piano we can sit down at and play. It's inside here. So if I don't get enough sleep, or if I've had a cold, or if I've gotten off a long plane ride, or if I've eaten something that made me a little, I can't predict what my voice will do. So
Right.
there's and in different phases of a person's life, the instrument changes just because, like I told you, my feet are more troublesome now that I'm older. So is my voice.
Right.
I can't run as fast as I used to, and I can't sing the way that I used to.
Right.
Some things are easier now, some things are harder, but you're always negotiating an ever-changing instrument. And it's helpful to have someone you trust who's there to help you navigate what is sometimes some tricky waters.
Right. And I want to point out one thing that Susan said that I think is so important. And I did the same thing, watching other people work in the room, right? So when you're young, and it's very different now because I watch kids in the room, young artists on their phones. And all I can tell you is that I learned my craft from being in the room because I never heard an opera till I worked on one. I didn't study Italian. All of what I learned to end up at the Met, I learned on the job. And I learned because I paid attention and I was always curious and I asked a lot of questions and I never pretended that I knew something I didn't know, right?
There's that thing about keeping your mouth shut and your eyes and ears open.
Right. And I think it's so valuable. Like I tell young singers anytime they're like in the room, just put your phone away and watch. Like you're sitting here, there's a masterclass happening in front of you. Like I worked with Joan Sutherland and Richard Bonning, and I was just like, okay, I'm all just gonna watch,
Yeah. And I've been in so many rehearsals where, you've got Renee Fleming in the room or Placido Domingo or, the most famous singers in the world. And
Right.
people are in the corner, like checking their Facebook or something,
Right.
like it's just another day.
Don't miss out.
There's so much to be learned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your hands out of your phones, kids.
Right. And we appreciate that you're here with us on technology right now because my goodness, we couldn't do it without, right? Oh,
Totally,
it's joke o'clock. All right. Joke o'clock. Let's go. I'm so excited. From Grace in Vancouver, BC. What is the difference between a fish and a piano? Something about the scales, but I don't know what, right?
Good, Paula.
Oh no, you can't tune a fish. Oh, that's really good.
I like that where you're going with scales though.
Yeah, really I'll have to come up with a joke about that. All right, now we have a great question from Daphne from Halifax that sort of relates to what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Let's hear that.
Hi, my name is Daphne and I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. My question for Miss Graham is, as an opera singer, what is your wellness routine to stay fit in your mind and body? Thank you.
So she's interested in your wellness routine for your mind and body. And I think that's so important in what we were just talking about, like how as your body changes, your vocal cords change, your whole instrument changes. So talk to us a little bit. And I'm curious whether it's changed over the years. And
basically it's the same, just sort of some of the methodologies have changed. I've always, I'm a really good sleeper. Sleep is really important for me.
That's great.
And and I can sleep on airplanes. The minute I get on an airplane, boom, before it even takes off, I'm like, I always sit at a window seat so I can have my pillow and lean up against the window. And eating the right foods is very important. And eating at the right time on a show day is very important because I don't ever like to go on stage feeling full because then I feel like I don't have enough energy. And it makes me feel kind of, if I have to, because, you sing, like I told you a minute ago, the engine is down here around in your abdomen. So when you're supporting and those muscles are working, but your stomach is full, it's like your body doesn't know what to do. So, and I try, I'm from New Mexico and I love spicy food, but I can't eat it before I sing for the same reason. You don't want to have any difficulty. There are a lot of singers who don't eat dairy because like creamy things, cheese and milk kind of makes you go, it makes like phlegm production. I don't really notice that too much for me. And exercise is really important. I need to feel fit. That varies over the years. I used to be a runner, which is probably why my feet are so problematic now. I used to love running, and running was a big release for me. I'd be pent up and, or finding myself in a city that I didn't know and feeling kind of like a stranger in a strange land. But I would put on my running shoes and I would go out and just run and get to know the streets. And it was a really good way to sort of become acquainted with a new city and, have exercise too.
Right.
I used to rollerblade. I was one of the first people who was a rollerblader in Europe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, because we started it in America in sort of the early 90s, very early 90s. And I got a pair of roller skates. Like I was one of the first people I knew who had them, and rollerblades. And I took them to Europe with me. That was a heavy suitcase.
I bet.
And I would rollerblade all over like Paris and Geneva and even Salzburg and Vienna. And people thought I was crazy. And directors hated it because I would rollerblade into the stage door of the theater for rehearsal. And the director was afraid I would fall, and break my head open or something. But I was always very careful. And I wore wrist guards and protective gear and stuff like that. And now it's biking. Now I'm a biking fanatic, and I bike everywhere. Even in New York City, I have a bike in my apartment, and it's my preferred method of transportation in New York. I always bike. Always wear a helmet.
Right. Yeah. Always wear a helmet. Oh, sorry. That's my older daughter walking by. That's okay.
Hi. How are you doing?
She's a wrestler. So that's her.
Wow.
Yeah, she got into wrestling when we moved here. So I think certainly when you're in rehearsal a lot and you've got music in your head, I know, like, even as a director, right? I'm not a singer, but there has to be a release of that because it's a lot of energy in a room together, and you need some way to put it out. Yeah.
And I will say though that one of my favorite ways to learn new music is with earphones on a treadmill.
On a treadmill. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
It's hard for me I can't listen to music very well when I'm outdoors doing exercise, but in a treadmill, and it distracts me from the actual agony of the exercise.
The first time I listened to Hamilton, I was on a treadmill in Texas, in Houston, working.
Oh my God.
And I got on for like a 30-minute run, and I started listening, and I was on the treadmill for 3 hours. I walked a lot of it, but I didn't get off that treadmill till it was over, and I was like sobbing. It was very funny.
So amazing.
Yeah. All right. Here's a question from Valeria, Argentina. Do you warm up every day, even if there's not a performance coming? Oh, that's a great question.
It is a great question. And I will say, no, I do not. I don't. Sometimes I just need to give my voice a rest. And if I go, like if I'm on vacation or something, I'm not going to sing.
Yeah.
I do warm up when I'm teaching, because if I want to demonstrate something, I want to be warmed up.
Oh,
because
nice.
I want it, these days, I want it to sound good. I can't just roll out of bed and sound like an opera singer anymore like I used to. It takes a little bit more work now.
And Andrea is asking, how many minutes do you warm up?
It's funny because I warm up normally with a recording of a voice lesson with my teacher, because I know that sometimes if I just warm up on my own, I'll skip steps.
Oh, interesting.
And I'll, I might not have done that one that needs to be. I might just go straight to E. And if you don't do the first, the E won't be as good. So I have to go regimented with this recording of a voice lesson. And I have wound it down to 11 minutes and 17 seconds.
I love it. Oh, that's great. That is great. And I love that idea of like having that routine as part of what you do. And boom, I just play the recording. I play
the recording. I don't have to think about it. And usually it's while I'm in the shower. Oh, because that's a nice amazing. Moist place. The steam helps get everything going.
That's amazing.
Plus everybody sounds better in the shower.
Yeah. I mean, even I sound good in the shower. All right, I think we've got another video question, and then we have some more write-ins too as we finish up here.
Hi, my name is Alicia and I'm from Indonesia. My
See,
question for
Dan,
Mrs. Graham
you
is,
got us,
what
Dan.
are the unique joys and challenges of performing in a concert setting versus in an opera? By the way, your recordings of French art songs was one of the first things that got me into classical music in the first place, so I have to thank you for that.
So we
That's
missed a
awesome.
little in the beginning. That's Alicia from Indonesia.
Alicia,
And
thank you so much. I'm
I
so
love,
glad you like my French recordings. I
yeah,
like
that's
them
so
too.
cool.
I had so much fun making them.
So she wanted to know the unique joys and challenges of performing concert setting versus an opera.
That is a really good question.
Yeah.
Because it is a different animal. It's a different animal. And recitals with a piano on stage is also different than standing in front of an orchestra that's behind you. You know, that's a whole different thing too. But the difference in both of those things and opera is that when I'm standing at the front of the stage, whether there's an orchestra behind me or a piano, I feel like it's much more intimate. I can pick out one person in the audience and sing right to that person. And I can find them and I can make eye contact with them. And sometimes, and it is also very spontaneous. It's much more spontaneous, particularly in recital with a pianist, because my pianist and I work with a couple of different pianists, and they're all really good friends of mine. But the one that I work with the most is Malcolm Martineau from London. And he and I have been working together for 25 years. So we're like an old married couple. And both of our partners know this. But we can read each other's minds musically. And he can tell by the way I'm going to take a breath where I'm going to go with that phrase. And so he will go along with me. And I can tell by the way that he lingers on a note where he's going to go with that phrase. So we play tennis like that, or ping pong. It's like we can play off of each other. So there's that spontaneity element, which you can't do in opera particularly, because there are a whole bunch of people who are reliant on you doing what they think you're going to do, what you're supposed to do. Right. But in fact, I've been in a concert situation before where I was singing like some songs that were kind of sad, like songs about death or something. And I saw a lady on the fourth row who was crying. Wow. And I thought, this is touching her in a way. She must have just lost somebody, or maybe, she was an older lady. So I thought maybe she'd lost her husband or something. And I saw that, and I just looked right at her. We actually made eye contact, and I just sang the rest of that song sort of to her. And even with my hand, my gesture and everything, I could just reach out and touch someone who seemed to be in a little bit of pain, and try and help her or give her some solace or something, Yeah. Those are opportunities that are very cool when you have, that contact is all about contact with an audience, and the energy coming back from the audience is much more palpable when you're right there. I mean, also the other thing, when you're on an opera stage, there's the Grand Canyon of the orchestra pit between you and the audience, and you can't often see anybody in the audience, but in concert situations you can. That's a good question.
I got goosebumps while you were talking about that. Oh. So do you have a preference?
No, I love it all. These days, opera's a lot more work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more time, and physically it's a lot more demanding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what can you say? It's opera. I love it.
So here's an interesting question. I do love this question. A lot of people have been asked. If you were to pursue a career outside of opera, what would it be? Do you have something? Gosh. It's a hard one, isn't it?
I love animals so much. I love dogs. I just love animals. I always thought that I'd like to be, I had a poodle for 18 years. Oh, see?
That's Flossie. She is a very good sleeper. Sorry.
Just like me. I had a poodle. Do you remember I traveled with a poodle for 18 years?
I do.
Her name was Libby. She was a little black toy poodle, and I love that dog so much that I used to say that I'd like to be a poodle groomer.
Oh, that would be amazing.
If I had another career. I don't
Yeah.
know. I want to get another dog. She lived to be 18, and you know,
Wow.
she went over the Rainbow Bridge many, many years ago. So
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here's a question from Germany. What's your favorite song or opera to perform? That's
gosh.
always a hard one, isn't it?
A song is 2 minutes and an opera is 3 hours.
All right, so let's separate. So give us your favorite,
Aber
like.
danke, Lily, for das Frage.
Okay.
Okay. I think that my favorite opera is kind of a tie as I look back. My favorite I had two favorite operas. Of course, Der Rosenkavalier.
Yeah.
Lily will like that because she's from Germany. And our French friends will like that. The other one is Les Troyens, about the Trojan Wars. And I got to play Dido, the Queen of Carthage. And it's a great, great role. And see, one is a boy and one is a girl. So
there you go.
Yeah. Gamut. My favorite song to perform probably is the one that I do as an encore on every recital that I do. People are probably sick of it, but I love it. So it's always, and whenever I sing it, people are so used to it now that they go, oh, when they hear the introduction. It's called A Cloris by Ronaldo Hahn. And it's on my Ronaldo Hahn record. And it's just, it's so beautiful and it's sweet and it's touching. And it's like a beautiful little dessert at the end of an evening of concert.
Nice. How fun. I love hearing those answers. Now, I do have to do a little advertisement here. I want to make sure everybody knows that starting today, 4 hours from now, because now I'm in the same time zone so I can do the math, you can watch The Merry Widow on the medopera.org/global summer camp. And this will be the one with Renee playing the role, the same role that Susan's played. And tomorrow is the Career Corner, and they're going to interview, Susan Blackwell's going to interview Susie Gomez.
Oh,
so Susie
Gomez
Gomez
me so many times. She's the head of wardrobe backstage at the
for the women. Yep.
Yes, and she's put me in more costumes than we can even count. And I'm Susie, and she's Susie. So, I'm Susie G, and she's Susie G. So it always gets very confusing. By the way, also tomorrow's my birthday.
What? Happy birthday! And I am not going to sing to you because nobody wants to hear that. But happy birthday! How exciting! Now, are you with your family there in New Mexico, or are you?
No, I've been by myself for a couple of weeks. Just because everybody needs some solitude now and then. But my mother lives with my sister in a town called Las Cruces, New Mexico, 4 hours south of Santa Fe, where I am now. So I'm getting in the car right when we get off of this. I'm getting in my car and I'm driving 4 hours south. My husband is driving in from California to meet me at my sister's house. And we're going to have a little socially distanced birthday party tomorrow. Just the 5 of us, just my family. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting lots of birthday greetings from everybody.
Oh, thanks, you guys.
I'm so
it's a
happy.
Big one.
It's a big one. We won't.
It's a big round one that ends with a 0.
Okay. I mean, 30, you're finally
I know, gosh,
into your 30s.
Yeah. I'll let you know what it's like.
So here's a great question. Just some advice for someone pursuing a life of music. Now, they ask for your best advice, but I'll take any advice that you have. I loved what you said earlier about surrounding yourself with great people who care about you.
And whom you trust.
Yeah.
The other great person that I found was the person who's been my assistant since 1994.
Wow.
She's made sure that my bills got paid when I was, off in strange places.
Before online bill pay.
Yes.
Everybody remember, like when we would travel, you had to deal with mail arriving to your home address where you hadn't been for 6 months, and somebody has
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't do it online. We didn't have email.
We didn't have online.
We didn't have cell phones.
Nope.
I mean, back in the days, kids, it was it was tricky. And even now that we are all digitally hooked up, my assistant has made sure that she handles she's like a business manager. So She's the best. And anybody in the profession who's dealt with everybody's assistants will tell you that mine is the best.
Oh, that's great.
And she's totally trustworthy because she has to be, because she knows where all the bodies are buried. Okay, the best advice is, as I said before, be authentic. Surround yourself with people you trust. And thirdly, don't go into this profession to become famous or rich.
Yeah.
Because not only is it highly unlikely, it also is the wrong reason. Yeah. Of course, we all need to make a living, and of course, we all need to be able to support ourselves. But this ain't American Idol.
No.
This ain't America's Got Talent. It is a long, slow career. And there will be very tough times. But you have to do it because you can't do anything else,
right,
and be happy.
Because you love it, and you have to do with passion.
Absolutely. That is the only reason to do this career.
Yeah.
And to understand that there will be rejection, but you have to lift yourself up and go on because you know that you're worth it. And you know that you have something to say. Thomas Hampson used to say that you have to have the soul of a butterfly and the hide of an elephant. Because you have to be so sensitive that you can take what's around you and turn it into art. But you have to be so tough that you can rise up when somebody tries to kick you down.
Yeah. And I used to say, let it roll off you like water in the shower, because
that's right.
You can't
Teflon
take
suit.
it all
Put
in.
on your Teflon suit. Yeah.
I think it's an interesting thing. I remember when I was in college, my goal was to be able to make the primary amount of money, like whatever I needed to live, by doing theater, art, opera, whatever, not being a waiter. Like that was my goal.
Yeah.
It was not to work at the Met. It was not to be famous. It was not, it was, if I can actually pay my bills and live independently.
Me too.
That's success right there.
Me too.
I don't need any more than that. And
I used to fantasize about a bus and truck tour through the Appalachian Mountains. I didn't need to be a star. I just needed finally for somebody to pay me to sing and me not to have to pay them for the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's such great advice. And I think let's just say, aside from the current time of COVID, there are a million ways to make a living doing this job, whether it's on stage, off stage, by the stage. And I hope campers, and we have a couple more weeks left of the camp, but I do hope that you've gotten that from this camp. With the Career Corner, you're starting to realize all the people who make this happen, and they're really satisfying ways and passion. You can fuel your passion by being involved.
Can I just also mention that my husband and I were in college together, and he was a theater major and I was a music major. So in those days, the theater and music departments overlapped at Texas Tech University. And so, we were sort of around each other. And he was a good actor and a good singer. He was in musicals. But as he went on through his education, he started to realize that there might not always be work on the stage, but there would always be work behind the stage.
Yeah.
So he made it his business to learn scenery building and lighting. And his first jobs out of college were working at the Dallas Theater Center and building sets and doing all that kind of thing. And then a couple of years after that, he got a phone call from somebody in California who asked him if he knew anything about lighting. And he said, a little bit. And they said, well, somebody's just canceled on this rock and roll tour with this great big rock and roll star. Would you like to go on the tour? And he said, yeah, I will. And he spent, the first 6 months with his mouth shut and his ears open. And he learned the craft of lighting. And now he's a lighting executive for major marketing events. He did rock and roll for 16 years.
Amazing.
And now he does big things like, giant convention center auto shows and things like that. And he does all the technology for those things. And he learned that the basis of that was being a theater major.
Amazing. That is like the perfect story to end this wonderful hour with. Thank you so much, Susan. I wish you, and I know everybody wishes you the happiest of birthdays. I hope that you stay safe and healthy. And for me, it fuels me just getting to like see your face and talk to you for an hour.
I'm happy to see you. I know I miss you. I miss everybody at the Mint so much. And I wish I could see all of the campers' faces, but
I know that's the only bad thing about StreamYard. We can't see everybody, but I know everybody was so excited. I was checking the comments before, and I know they were really happy to see.
Thank you all so much. And I wish you all the very, very best of luck. And I wish you a wonderful remainder of your camp time. And I think this is just the grooviest thing ever.
I agree.
You're all really, really lucky. And thank you for being opera lovers.
Yeah. Mwah. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week.